All right, guys, how's it going? Friday edition of Black and Gold Breakdown. Jared Bailey with you as always. Appreciate you guys being here. Me and if you missed it earlier this week, me and DB did our all-time Steelers draft. So that is on the channel now, and you should absolutely go watch it. It was very fun. So make sure you go and check that out if you haven't already. The pump fake on Tuesday was joined by Sean Merriman, which was a lot of fun. So if you haven't checked that out yet, go and check those out. Hope everybody had a good 4th of July. If you follow me on Twitter, you know how much I despise fireworks, and I hope to not hear any more for a solid year. Hopefully people don't be shooting them off all weekend. I have a bad feeling that they will be, though, because of course they will. But I hope everybody had a good 4th of July. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about, I did a write-up on Behind the Steel Curtain of the guys who I think are the top 10 Steelers heading into the 2024 season. And so that's what we'll be focusing on today is my current top 10 Steelers heading into the year. And then, of course, if you guys have any comments, questions, we'll always get to those in the open forum portion of the show. So let's get into it. Number 10, Chris Boswell. I couldn't leave Boz off the list. I feel like, he's just been one of the best kickers in football for, close to a decade at this point. It was his first year in Pittsburgh, 2015. So for, this is going on year 10 of him being in Pittsburgh, and he's been just consistently one of the best in the league. So I couldn't leave him off the list when he is that good and one of the very best at his position in the NFL. But at the same time, when we're talking about kickers, I feel like there is certainly a ceiling that you can put them at. Like, for example, where would Justin Tucker go on the Ravens list? He's certainly one of their best players, but at the same time, it's kickers at the end of the day. So putting Boz at 10, and the Steelers are very lucky to have a kicker as good as him, especially when, for a team that plays in as many close games as they do and have over the past few years, they're lucky to have Boz to always lean on when they need some points. Number 9, some of you guys will find this one controversial, but Jaylen Warren is my number 9. I think, I've talked about it on here before. I think that Jaylen is the best running back on the team. And so naturally, if I have to put one in the top 10, it will be Jaylen. Last season, he was 5th in the NFL amongst running backs in yards per touch at 5.5. And what he adds as a receiver on top of being a running back just gives him that extra notch above everyone else. And by everyone else, I mean Najee. So if I had to pick one running back on the Steelers roster, I would pick Jaylen Warren. And I think that he is in for a very, very big year under Arthur Smith. So Jaylen Warren is number 9. Alex Highsmith is number 8. His sack numbers went down a little bit in 2023, but he was still 12th in the NFL in hurries. And, if you look around the NFL, there's a nice number of teams where Alex Highsmith would be the top edge rusher on said teams. It just so happens he plays opposite of a guy who we'll touch on here in a little bit. And he is, one of the better number 2 edge rushers in the NFL. And like I said, on many teams, he would be their top edge rusher. But again, 12th in the NFL in hurries last year for Highsmith. And we'll see if those sack numbers come up in 2024. And we hope they will. Cam Hayward's number 7. Even as he, gets older and is entering what could very well be his final year as a Steeler, still one of the best interior defensive linemen in football. I'd say probably still at minimum, top 5 to 7 defensive tackle overall. Still going strong. Dealt with the injuries last year. That was a common theme for a lot of top defensive players last year for Pittsburgh. And Cam was obviously one of them, getting injured in week 1 against the 49ers, hurting his groin. Returned against Tennessee a few weeks later. So missed some time last year. But like I said, when he is on the field, he's still one of the best at his position. And he is number 7. Number 6 on the list is George Pickens. And you look at, we've talked about it at length on this show, because we've talked about receivers at length on this show. He led the NFL in yards per reception last year with 18.1 yards per catch. And Pittsburgh's going to really lean on him to be that number 1 this year. And they need him to, continue taking those steps forward. At the tail end of last year, he showed that he's very capable of doing what he needs to do to be considered a number 1 receiver. And the offense is very much going to lean on him because he is their outside threat right now. There isn't anybody else. So I'm very intrigued to see what this year holds for George Pickens. We all assume that they're going to add somebody. It looks more than likely it's going to be one of the names, a Treylon Burks or a John Mechie, maybe a Michael Thomas. But, if you're an opposing defense and you have George Pickens and, Van Jefferson on the other side, you're saying, okay, well, double George. And good luck beating us with everybody else that you have. So the Steelers need a big year from Pickens. They're absolutely going to target him a ton this year. And we'll see how much his production can go up in 2024. Number 5, I put Isaac Seumalo, one of the best guards in the NFL. When you look across the Steelers' offensive line, he is very much that anchor. He and James Daniels both. James Daniels very much gets an honorable mention here. But Isaac Seumalo, one of the best guards in the NFL. And the Steelers hit a home run last year bringing him in because their offensive line had a lot of holes. And he certainly plugged one of them at guard. So good to have Isaac Seumalo on the left side. And looking forward to seeing what he does in his second year as a Steeler. And continuing to be a force up front, helping the run game, and keep whoever the quarterback may be clean. I put Joey Porter Jr. at number 4. Amongst all cornerbacks with 100 coverage snaps last year, he was 3rd in the NFL in the lowest reception percentage allowed. So, and you look at opposing quarterbacks' passer rating when targeting Joey Porter Jr., opposing quarterbacks only had a passer rating of 69.6 when throwing at him. So instantly became one of the best cornerbacks in football as a rookie, the unquestioned number 1 guy at corner for them entering year 2. And remember, we didn't see him get, consistent snaps last year until around week 5, week 6. So a full year of knowing that he's the guy and going forward as one of the best perimeter corners in football. I'm excited to see what Joey Porter Jr. has in store in year 2. Number 3, Patrick Queen. We talked at length about this addition throughout the offseason because it's been a long time since the Steelers have had an off-ball linebacking group that is this good on paper. Patrick Queen, former first-round pick. Very good closing speed, very good in coverage, good against the run, just a really good all-around off-ball linebacker that can be out there on 3 downs. He's going to be wearing the green dot for the Steelers this year. And when you have him and Landon Roberts and Peyton Wilson, and hopefully sooner than later Cole Holcomb to make up that rotation, that is, the best inside linebackers room they've had since the late 2000s, early 2010s. When they had James Ferry or Lawrence Timmons. Now, this is Pittsburgh really making a statement and finally getting a position right that they have not been able to get right for a long time. So really excited to see Patrick Queen and the black and gold number 6 this season. Very much looking forward to seeing him at training camp here in a few weeks. Number 2 is Minkah Fitzpatrick. Obviously, another guy who dealt with injuries last year, but since 2019, no other safety has more All-Pro selections than Fitzpatrick with 3. There's only one other safety that has 3 All-Pro selections in that time span, and it's Justin Simmons. So when he's at his best, he is arguably the best safety in football. I know a lot of guys have come into the league over the past few years, the likes of Kyle Hamilton, who's tremendous in Baltimore, several other guys around the league, Jesse Bates in Atlanta. But when Minkah is able to do what he does best, which is sit in center field, watch the quarterback's eyes, and get takeaways, there's very few in the NFL that are better than him at the safety position. So hopefully we get a full year of healthy Minkah Fitzpatrick and a full year of a Minkah Fitzpatrick who gets back to doing what he does best, and that's be a ball hawk in the center of the field. So Minkah Fitzpatrick is number 2. And it's no surprise to anyone that TJ Watt is number 1. Coming off leading the NFL in sacks for the 3rd time, the only person to ever do that. And a guy who should at minimum have 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, maybe 3. And when you talk about the best players in football, TJ Watt is definitely in that breath. I don't think that there are 5 players in the NFL overall that are better than him at his position or in general. Is Joe Burrow a better quarterback than TJ Watt is an edge rusher? I don't think so. So I think that if you're listing the 5 best players in the NFL right now, I think TJ Watt's in there. Steelers are very lucky to have him. And for all the stars that this defense may have, they go as far as Watt will take them. So TJ Watt is number 1. And to give you a full recap, if you're just joining a little bit late, number 10, Chris Boswell. Number 9, Jaylen Warren. 8, Alex Highsmith. 7, Cam Hayward. 6, George Pickens. 5, Isaac Samalo. 4, Joey Porter Jr. 3, Patrick Queen. 2, Minkah Fitzpatrick. And number 1, TJ Watt. Everybody in the comments, good to see y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. Yes, of course. No reason to talk about Brandon Ayuk today, so that's good. That's good. And now that I say that, be prepared for something crazy to happen tomorrow. No Cam Johnston. Cam's going to be good. Going to be a big upgrade at punter. I love Cam Johnston already. Very nice guy to talk to. Now, look, there's a few guys that could have made the list that didn't. Pat Freiermuth is probably number 11, and I think he's going to have a big year. I was watching a highlight video of the entirety, 2021 highlights, Ben's final year. Pat Freiermuth had 6 touchdowns as a rookie, very quietly. Pat had a ginormous year as a rookie. And even in 2022, he had a lot of catches. Not as many touchdowns. But I think that Pat Freiermuth is in for a big year. And I think at this time next year, we'll be talking about him as a Steeler in the top 10 for sure. Top 5 guys are all on defense. Proves why we have problems. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Now look, hopefully, we'll see Pickens continue to get better. Maybe we'll see, with Jaylen Warren or Najee Harris get even better, preferably Jaylen Warren, considering he's going to be the one who is in Pittsburgh in 2025. But yeah, you would you would very much like at this point next year that a quarterback is on this list. Because obviously we don't know what we're going to get out of either of these guys. We could be hopeful, but until we see it on the field, man, we just don't know. Maybe it'll be Russ. Maybe it'll be Fields. Maybe it'll be my long-form theory that it could be Dak Prescott. Who knows? Mentioning Michael Thomas earlier was interesting. If he's healthy, he could be a legit wide receiver too. I got to tell you, man, I appreciate the optimism. I don't want Michael Thomas. Like, Michael Thomas had like a 2-year stretch where he was pretty dominant and got a lot of catches. And then has just been, I don't want Michael Thomas. I would rather them bring in Treylon Burks personally. Younger, higher ceiling, more potential. We know what Michael Thomas is. He's old and he's not very good. So I'm okay on passing on Michael Thomas. I don't think that would necessarily be the route that I would go. Not for long, PA come to the Bergs. Well, because I said that it's not going to happen, that means that he'll do something tomorrow that'll make us talk about him. John Mechie's not going for a 4th, dude. Like, they could get John Mechie for next to nothing. Same thing with Treylon Burks. They could get them for late day 3s. Because John Mechie's what, the 4th, 5th receiver on the Texans depth chart right now? They can get him for a 6th or a 7th. They could probably get him for like a 2026 5th. Same thing with Treylon Burks. You don't want to trade a draft pick in next year's draft? Okay. A conditional 5th in 2026. Now, they don't have to give up a 4th. If they give up a 4th for John Mechie, then they got fleeced. You don't have to give up a 4th for John Mechie. You can give up one of the 7s that the Eagles gave you for Kenny Pickett. You don't have to give up anything for John Mechie. So I'll see where it leads. It's July 5th right now. Steelers report for training camp in a little bit over 2 weeks. So getting close. Getting very close. And hopefully something happens within this 2 weeks where we're talking about a receiver being acquired so we can just stop wondering. Like, you'd like them to go into training camp with, with the guys that they'll have going forward, or even if it's early in training camp, but preferably, they go into training camp with the core of guys that they're going to roll forward with. And if it's Burks, cool. Mechie, all right. I don't want it to be Michael Thomas. I really don't. But if their top 4 receivers are Pickens and then Roman Wilson in the slot, and then, Treylon Burks on the outside, and then Calvin Austin as the number 4 guy, all right. Not necessarily what I would call the most ideal, but there's been worse. And having Pickens there would be good. So need a bridge guy, role player, wide receiver, or easy to find. Not understanding what you're saying. And look, there's still some available on the market. But, the Steelers have already added several guys that, Scotty Millers, Van Jefferson, Marquez Callaway, like guys who were good like 3 years ago or had like one good season a few years ago. Like, those are all the signings that they've made so far at the receiver position. So, would like to see them, like Treylon Burks would be better than anybody that they've gotten so far this year. in terms of like acquired. I'd be fine if they get Treylon Burks, because I think at this point that's probably the maximum that you're probably going to get, like unless it's a guy out of left field. You know, I've talked about Chris Godwin a lot because it makes sense to me, but we'll see. I would love for that to happen. Would genuinely love for that to happen. I mean, hell, CeeDee Lamb wants $32 million. He's very much worth that. If Dallas isn't going to give him that, then, you know, maybe the Steelers do. That would be something. I mean, if we get the notification that the Steelers acquired CeeDee Lamb, I think we'd all be pretty ecstatic. So, except for like the, you know, handful of people are like, oh my goodness, they traded a first-round pick. Oh, yeah, dude, no kidding. For CeeDee Lamb, hell, I give up a lot more than just that. Yeah, the Steelers could acquire Jesus Christ himself, and if the package included a first-round pick, there would be a segment of fans like, you can't give up a first-round pick for Jesus Christ. Like, really, dude? Like, enough about the draft picks. Like, relax. But what I'm saying is we need a bridge wide receiver and find one next year in the draft or start a free agency. I mean, I don't think there is such thing right now as a bridge wide receiver, at least none that are available. Again, to be a bridge, that implies that you are good enough to get through a season. Like Michael Thomas, I don't think he's good enough for that. Like, I think Michael Thomas is just bad at football now. I don't think he's good. Treylon Burks, you can get him for quite literally nothing, and that'll get you through. And worst case scenario, I mean, you just carry Treylon Burks on your roster going forward. He just isn't going to be the number 2 guy after this year. But if Treylon Burks is your, you know, number 3 outside receiver after you draft a guy, then cool. So I'd rather them go after a Mechie or a Burks, somebody who's at least youthful and capable, rather than a Michael Thomas who's, 30, 31 now and just broken. I'm quite okay on that. So Mechie or Burks are my guess. Maybe Chris Godwin. And again, nothing about Godwin has been reported. I've just been pretty bullish on that because it makes sense. And if they would trade for Chris Godwin and wanted to, you know, give him, you know, a 2-year deal, okay, that's fine. But CeeDee Lamb's obviously, like, CeeDee Lamb's become the dream for me. Now I don't think it's going to be Ayuk. But CeeDee Lamb? Telling you. A greater than 0 chance that Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb are both in Pittsburgh next year. Greater than 0. I don't think it's high. But it's greater than 0. And for a dude who just had like legitimately a top 10 season all time for a receiver, would be pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with it. Hey, Tom, how's it going? I say there's another thing. Don't give up a first for CD. Yes, you do. You absolutely give up a first round pick for CeeDee Lamb. At worst, he's the 3rd best receiver in football right now. Again, he just came up, 138 catches last year, a boatload of yards, a ton of touchdowns, where he was very much, very clearly the top target in that offense. You put CeeDee Lamb opposite of George Pickens. Oh, that would be good. Very, very good. Be very excited for that. Especially because, you don't got to worry about paying Pickens for, at least on the cap, for another, 2 years? If you want to talk about, okay, you got to start thinking about his extension, okay. But if you can get good players, you get good players. Try to win now. $32 million is absurd. Well, they have the money to do it. If you got the money to do it, then do it. And again, For everybody worried about the money, CeeDee Lamb wants $32 million a year. Not all of that is going to be on the cap. And we've gone over this exercise plenty of times on this show before. I do want to ask this though. Why does say 32 million is absurd? Why do we care? Who cares? Not all of it's going to be against the cap. I don't care what other people make. So $32 million, you can bundle up a good amount of that in, signing bonus and roster bonuses. So not all of it goes against the cap. My example for this was what the Lions did with Jared Goff. He's scheduled to make the most money of any player this year, but in terms of his cap hit, it's, I think, 12th amongst quarterbacks because of the way that they tied up the money. You could do that with any position. So if he wants $32 million, okay. Right now, that's what the market calls for a top 3 receiver. And the Steelers are going to have a ton of money next year where they can afford to do it. So I'm very much on board. Very much on board. When Pickens' contract does come up, then what? You worry about that then. In the meantime, you try to win now. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, that's a hell of a duo. And if Pickens does leave, well, CeeDee Lamb is much better than George Pickens anyway. So that just means that you got a better receiver. And you worry about that in 2 years. I'm not worried about 2 years down the road right now. I'm worried about get as many good players as you can and win. If you're constantly worried about stuff 2 years down the road, then you're just going to let everything in the present pass you by. Worry about winning now. Be the Rams. Be the 49ers. Get good players and figure it out. But you also gave up first. Okay. That's okay. Plenty of good players outside of the first round. What's up, Ali? Thanks for tuning in. Give up Pickens a first and $32 million for CeeDee Lamb. Again, if Pickens does leave, it's not for another 2 years. Win now. That is the big thing. Again, people worry so goddamn much about draft capital. If you can get CeeDee Lamb, who are you taking in the first round that's better than CeeDee Lamb right now, receiver? Nobody. Not a single person. So yeah, CeeDee Lamb would cost a decent amount to acquire, and he's going to be expensive because he's a very, very, very great player. But if you can have 2 years of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens together, man, hell, that's good. That's good. And as long as they have a good enough quarterback to keep getting them the ball, 2 years of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens at minimum. Now, look, yeah, like I said, maybe you can't afford to pay both Lamb and Pickens, which, I mean, especially in today's NFL, like, it's hard to pay. Like, the Bengals are going through it right now, right? Where they know that this is going to be the last year of having T. Higgins because he's going to get bigger money, and they're, you're not going to be able to pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins when you're paying Joe Burrow already. But if you can have 2 years of Lamb and Pickens, yeah, you do that. Absolutely. I would love it. I would too, Rob. I would too. Get as many good players as you can. Like I said, I would love to see them take a page out of, the Rams playbook or the 49ers playbook, where they looked at their roster and said, yeah, we're pretty good. We can get better. Now, the Rams have done it since 2018? They traded for Brandon Cooks, traded for Matthew Stafford, traded for Jalen Ramsey. They bought a Super Bowl team. Cool. I don't care how they do it. Just win. I don't care where they're drafted. I don't care where they come from. If they're great, get them. Figure out the rest later. We need to stop doing this. I don't know who the hell Evan Stewart is. Bless his heart. No one is Justin Jefferson 2.0. No one in next year's draft is going to come into the league and all of a sudden be a top 3 receiver immediately. So we need to. I hate that too. I'm not trying to like attack anybody. I'm really not, but we need to stop doing this. It's just not smart analysis. Yeah, not attacking anybody. Just getting fired up. Because if you can get good players, you get good players. That's what it comes down to. And if you keep wondering, okay, well, what about 2 years later? Live in the present, man. Take advantage of this window. Because you know who is not going to get any younger? TJ Watt. Can't worry about 2 more years of TJ Watt. You got to worry about how can we win now with TJ Watt? It's going to be 30. Can't worry about, okay, what about in 2 years of Minka Fitzpatrick? Minka Fitzpatrick in 2 years is going to be 30. TJ Watt's closing in on 30. I think he's going to be 30 this year, isn't he? Like, can't worry about 2 years from now. Got to worry about now. So if you can get damn good players, then do it. Figure it out. Like, TJ Watt doesn't have a playoff win. Minka Fitzpatrick doesn't have a playoff win. You know? So, like, if there's a world where they can get a CeeDee Lamb, fucking do it. It would sure as hell make life easier for Russell Wilson and the offense. No telling who. I don't understand what this comment says, but if you want to retype it, that would be great. I think you're trying to say no telling on who you can get to replace Pickens in those 2 years. And again, worry about that in 2 years. Because if you run a franchise, going into the 2024 season, thinking about 2026, that's probably not great. Worry about winning in 2024. And if anything, I think that George Pickens would absolutely welcome having CeeDee Lamb. Because then teams are going to be like, okay, we're kind of picking our poison here. We're going to let CeeDee Lamb, we're going to double CeeDee Lamb and let George Pickens go one-on-one down the sideline. Or are we going to double George Pickens and let CeeDee Lamb just eat us underneath for big yards? Plus Roman Wilson, plus Pat Freiermuth, plus the run game. I think if you add CeeDee Lamb, you could legitimately talk me into the Steelers like putting up a fight and getting to like the divisional round and like depending on how good the quarterbacks are, getting to the AFC Championship game. As long as the defense is as advertised. No telling who we can get to replace. Okay, that's what I thought you said. And again, man, worry about it in 2 years. Worry about it in 2 years. That's not a today problem. If you can get a guy that makes you better today, then you do it. And you worry about the rest later. I would kill to have CeeDee Lamb. I don't know what's going to happen in Dallas. That's a weird situation. I think I'm going to actually do a piece on the Cowboys just because I have so many thoughts about them. And I haven't really written a ton about them at all. Switching the topic, but I seen a post of you calling OBJ overrated. That was from a few months ago. Yeah. I think it was how did they even come up? I think it was like during free agency when it was said that the Ravens weren't going to bring him back. I just, quoted it and said, look, no disrespect to Odell Beckham Jr., and it's not his fault, but he's the most overrated player in the history of the sport. Yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah, occasionally I'll still see stuff pop up on that too. I know a few people like posted about it on like Instagram and tagged me in it and stuff. Like FanDuel got a hold of it, stuff like that. But yeah, that was like, if I had guessed, like back in March, pretty early in the off season. My thing with Odell is that like if he doesn't make the catch against the Cowboys, we're not having this. He hasn't been great in like what 7 years, and yet we still have this Odell Beckham watch every offseason. And like everybody's already like drooling over the Dolphins, acting as if Odell Beckham Jr. is going to make them any better. He's not. Just goofy. Jared, what are you most excited about the upcoming season? Myself, I can't wait to see how crazy the new kickoff rule will look on the field. Then we're going to see more kickoff returns for touchdowns. I think we will too, and I'm very much looking forward to that. And what I've noticed from seeing Pittsburgh practice it is we're going to see a lot of like innovative stuff with the kickoff rule. Like you're going to be able to, when defending the kickoff, you can almost treat it like a run play where you have a guy coming behind two bigger guys who are opening up a lane for him to explode through to get to the guy returning the kick. So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff with it. I'm very excited. In terms of what I'm most excited for, like I think I've said it on here a few times, man. This is just the most excited I've been for a Steelers season in general since 2018, 2019. I guess 2019 because like I didn't anticipate Ben getting hurt. So yeah, 2018, 2019, like 5-6 years that I've been this excited because post elbow injury, Ben didn't necessarily know what he would look like. I was never a Pickett guy. I thought it was a mistake when they drafted him. And now, they've rinsed their hands clean of that. In terms of the kickoff stuff, I will say this. Cordero Patterson, much bigger in person than I thought he'd be. The man is ginormous. So I'm excited to see what he looks like. Peyton Wilson, another name that I'm really hyped to see on the field. Can't wait. Just a lot of guys that I really want to see. Peyton Wilson might be the guy I'm looking forward to seeing most. Like already one of my favorite Steelers. He's going to be a stud. And I'm excited to see what comes from him. Can't wait to see Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's awesome. Dealt with some injuries last year. And still had over 1,000 yards. Dude's a freak. Vikings will be interesting. I think that Sam Darnold's going to start the year for them. I think that's going to be a very like carbon copy Trubisky Pickett. Where, okay, they paid Sam Darnold like $10 million this year. He's going to start the year. And is J.J. McCarthy going to be any good? I will say this. At the rookie showcase, when, the guys get their, first pictures in the uniform, he's very aesthetically pleasing. Like that purple 9. He looks a lot like Trace McSorley did at Penn State. And I'm a Penn State fan, and I love the way that Trace McSorley looked. So, like, he's got, like, the on-field look. Obviously, that doesn't translate to, how good you play. But we'll see with Minnesota, man. They are certainly interesting. I think right now they're the worst team in that division. I think Chicago's going to be, like, surprise some people and be a wild card team. But always fun watching Justin Jefferson. I'm intrigued to see how long Sam Darnold will start for Minnesota once the season gets started. But, all right. I think we can kind of... I was a big Trace McSorley guy. He was with Baltimore for like 3 years, like as the third string guy. Threw a touchdown against Pittsburgh in 2020. But the Steelers like already had like the game. There was like 20 seconds left or something. They already had the game won. So I was pretty happy that Trace threw a touchdown. Started a game for the Cardinals in 21, I think. Was at the Patriots for a little bit. Was with the Steelers for a little bit last year. So, no, I was always a big Trace McSorley guy. Don't know what he's doing now. That's a guy that I'd enjoy seeing go to the UFL, see if he could do something with it. Is it a bad take to say Tyler Huntley is Cleveland's best quarterback right now? I don't know, man. No, I think Jameis is. I think that Jameis would give them a better chance to win than Deshaun Watson would. I think Deshaun Watson's cooked. I've talked about that today. did a radio spot for CBS Sports in DC and was asked about Cleveland and Deshaun Watson. Like, he hasn't been good in 4 years. So I'm not going to all of a sudden think that he's going to turn things around and get good. I think that Jameis is probably the best quarterback on that roster right now. It's crazy that they got both Jameis and Tyler Huntley. That is something. But they can't get out of that Watson contract right now. Like, it's going to be a little bit before they can. The second they can, though, you can best believe they are cutting his ass. Yeah, what a tire fire that's been. But hey, they made their bed. Did get a few new helmets, by the way. Got the new Giants one, the Dolphins one up there. So, and then yeah, got those two back there. So the collection is coming together. Very excited about it. I'm gonna start collecting cards again too. So that'll be fun. Maybe I'll people enjoy like I've noticed on here, people really like watching people opening like sports cards. So maybe I'll do that like once a week. Once I get a few boxes of them. Would that be something you guys would watch? Just card opening. Now, they're going to be to a specific era. There's not going to be, I'm doing strictly like, I would say between like 1995 to 2010, 11, maybe 2012. I think that'll be the furthest I'd go. So like late 90s to early 2010s. That's what I'm aiming for. I'm going to scavenge eBay, just buy a bunch of boxes. I think that would be really fun. So yeah, if that's something you guys would watch, I'd do it on here for fun. I think that would be pretty cool. Because if you guys watch, I'm a big stand-up comedy guy. If you watch Dan Soder's podcast, he does a special episode every week where the guest that he has on, they open 1989 basketball cards, and it's so fun. It's great. So maybe we'll do something like that on here, like once a week, maybe on like a Saturday. I'll just take a pack, open it. We'll see who we get together. I think that'd be pretty fun. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, might do like a little test run of it and see how it goes. So I'm very big into that. I was very big into it when I was younger. I'm going to start doing it again just because I'm very nostalgic about it. I'm a Gamecock fan. I'm hoping that Rattler will get a chance on the field. Yeah, New Orleans, I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I think that they're bad, man. I think they're the worst head coach in the NFL, and Dennis Allen. You look at Derek Carr's stats last year, 25 touchdowns to 8 picks, but that absolutely did not reflect how he played. He was not good. So wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if Dennis Allen gets fired and then whomever the interim coach is just says, let's see what Spencer Rattler has, and they go from there. Thankfully, we had Ricky, so CeeDee Lamb rumors could get fired up again. I did see Ricky tweet something about that. People are trying to figure out who Ricky is, and I hope to soon find. I hope somebody figures it out. He follows me on Twitter, though, so there's that. You can also follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL. Yes to the cards. All right, we got one supporter. That's all I need. You know how I said at the beginning of the show, I hope that no one shoots off fireworks? Guess who's shooting off fireworks down the street? I can hear them. Oh, I hate them. Used to love to put model cars together. I was never a car guy. My great-grandfather was a ginormous car guy. I shouldn't say was. He's still alive. Yeah, I was never a car guy. Never a car guy. Damn, I missed the live. Hope everyone's doing well. No worries, Concepts. Yeah, go back and watch. Go back and watch. And again, quick house cleaning stuff. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do that. That would be lovely. Chasing 1,200. I think we're like 23 away from 1,200 subs. So the goal is to get, I think a good, healthy goal, especially like once we're in season and doing this consistently. I think 2,000 by Thanksgiving is a good goal. It's a little bit over 800 in the next, like, honestly, that might be a little bit too low to set. You're like 2,300. So subscribe. And if you're already subscribed and you know someone who isn't, tell them to subscribe. It'd be great. I already follow you, Jarrett. We've seen those late night tweets. Hey, no comment. I've got nothing to say about that. Once I get a girlfriend, it's over for y'all. See, somebody, I swear to God, I just checked my Twitter notifications and someone said, can someone check on Jarrett Bailey? Sky Blue's latest Instagram post might put him into cardiac arrest. As if I didn't already see it. Those goofies. You really think I wouldn't see Sky Blue's latest Instagram post? You goofballs. Of course I saw Sky Blue's latest Instagram post. Some of you don't know who Sky Blue is, and that's because you don't watch wrestling, but that's okay. Go follow her on Instagram and watch her wrestle. She's damn good. She's done a few death matches, and they are. She goes hard, man. She's awesome. She already dating Liv Morgan. If only. If only. It's the dream. Yeah, like I said, I had a colleague in the industry. We were talking one day, just texting back and forth about stuff we like outside of football. And I said something about pro wrestling, and he said that I was the horniest account on Twitter. So, you know, that's the title that I hold amongst NFL media members. Cheers to me. All right. I think we'll cut it there. I think that's a pretty good place to cut it. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. I'll circle back on the whole card thing. I think that's something I would like to do on here. So we'll see. But have a good weekend. I know we only did 2 editions of this show this week because 4th of July and everything. But go back and watch the all-time Steelers draft with DB. That's on the channel. So if you didn't watch it yet or you missed it live, go and watch it. It was a lot of fun. Go and watch the latest episode of The Pump Fake. Me, former NFL All-Pro, Sack King, Sean Merriman, talked about what are we talking about? Talked about the Dolphins. Talked about a lot of quarterbacks that are going to get paid and if they should or not. So a lot about should the Dolphins pay Tua? What's going to happen with Dak? Can the Bills break through this year? I asked him his thoughts on the Steelers quarterback situation. So good show with Sean Merriman. You can go watch that on the channel. And then, yeah, of course, make sure that you are subscribed and follow me on Twitter at JBailey NFL. Can we get AB? I don't know. Like, genuinely, I don't know how I would go about that. And I don't know how good that would go. I mean, if presented the opportunity to do it, I would obviously do it. But I don't know how I would go about that. Like, even like figuring out how to get a hold of him. So, you know, maybe. Maybe if enough of you tweet at Antonio Brown saying, hey, hop on with Jarrett, maybe that'll get his attention. I don't know, maybe do that. I'm not incentivizing you to do it, but I mean, if you want to, I'm not going to tell you not to, you know? Well, no, if he makes you cracker of the day. I forgot that was a thing. That's funny. JB, DB, and AB. Oh, man. Yeah, I would have to invite DB. Just for the initial stuff. Well, if you guys want it to happen so bad, then start tweeting about it, and maybe Antonio Brown will see it. And if he does, then we'll go from there. But until then, have a good weekend. If you're going to keep celebrating 4th of July all weekend long, do it responsibly. Be careful of fireworks. Don't drink and drive. All that good stuff. So have a good night. Thanks for tuning in as always. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all on Monday.